Yo guys, what is going on? It's the day after a big YCS. For those of you who don't know, the YCS in the TCG is one of the big tournament formats. You could say the biggest. Of course, there are the World Championships, but YCSs are like the top of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! In the TCG. And we already talked about the last results from the YCS, calling out the new Unchained deck, or not the new Unchained deck, but the new Unchained support, which makes the deck quite strong. And now I want to take a look at the recent YCS Vancouver that took place over the weekend. Next weekend, there will be YCS Dortmund here in Germany. So that will also be very interesting, and we could see at the YCS Sao Paulo, link is in the right corner. You can check the video out where I talked about that YCS and which decks were very successful there. And Unchained was a big one that I talked about, but here we can see a top 16 breakdown. We have 5 Unchained, 2 Purrely, and now we know what Purrely does. We have it in the game right now. Dragon Link, we also know that. 2 Kashtira, 2 Adventure Kashtira, 1. So I'm Kashtira with the Adventure engine, which is nothing too new and works. Then we have Rescue Ace, the deck that we presumably will get next month. Then we have Sprite, which is a bit surprising, not for us especially, but in the TCG, Sprite is not that strong anymore, so it's quite nice and surprising to see that it can still work. The engine still works, and it's also nice from a buying into the game perspective, because if you have bought the Sprite core a while ago when it was still very expensive, then it's obviously quite nice that you can still play it and be successful with it. I think that's good for the game in the long term in general, because I think everyone will benefit from all aspects of the game working well. So the TCG, the OCG, and Master Duel, obviously. There are also stuff like Duel Links and other platforms, but I think those are the main 3 at the moment. So it's cool that you can buy the core and still be successful with it. Infernoble Knight we have 1, and Labyrinth also 1. Infernoble Knight we have just gotten the secret pack, and we will get new support for the deck, which I also think is quite cool in terms of artwork, like knights and dragons. Those are I think the archetypes that a lot of people are really excited for, and I can understand that. I myself like them a lot. So let's look at the top deck lists here, and we can also see what will come to us in Master Duel. So Jesse Cotton, if you don't know, a very successful TCG player. Some consider him to be the best player in the world. Who knows? He is top deck list number 1, first place. He has won. I'm not sure if he won more YCSs before. I think he did. But yeah, cool for him. I sometimes watch his streams. He's definitely a really strong and really successful and knowledgeable player. So he definitely knows what he does, as you can see by first place topping a YCS. And we have here the Unchained deck. And you can see a lot of the cards that are in here we already have. The main ones that will be added to this deck will be the Shayama, the Shavara, and the Unchained Sword Lord of Yama, which make the deck way more effective in popping their own cards, summoning monsters. And the current version wants to land on the Nightmare Griffin, so Griffin lock, which basically says your opponent cannot use the effect of special summoned monsters. They have to be linked, then they can use their effect. So what you want to do is place the Griffin in the main monster zone, in the middle main monster zone, so there are basically no link arrows that your opponent can use. I mean, they could use some, but it's very hard to get a link monster to there, so they would have to invest a lot of resources. And then your board also contains this a lot of time Unchained Soul of Rage, which is basically an IP Masquerena with your opponent's card, so you can use this and another card your opponent controls to go up into Link 3 or another Link 2, of course. So you could make Nightmare Unicorn and spin a card back of your opponents, and then most of the time you will have both of these traps online, which this trap is also able to destroy something, a card of your opponent's. And then this deck also has some really nice grind games, so while you interrupt your opponent, you will also be able to get more resources back to hand. That's quite nice, and that can definitely work, and you can win long-term games against other decks. Some notable cards here. This one, the Wailing of the Unchained Swords, is a very new one that I think only Jesse played. I'm not quite sure. We will see it in a moment. This is also a cool card that we will get in the future. I'm waiting for it. I'm very excited to get it. Triple Tactics Thrust. If your opponent has activated a monster effect this turn, so not only main phase like Triple Tactics Talents, set one normal spell trap directly from a deck except Triple Tactic Thrusts, or if your opponent controls a monster, you can add it to your hand instead. That set card can not be activated this turn, so you definitely want your opponent to have a monster so you can activate it. But in this deck it's quite nice because you can set these traps and they just don't want to be destroyed by your other cards, for example the Shavara, which can destroy a card, quick effect from hand, and if you destroy these traps here then you are able to summon another Unchained monster from the deck to the field, and that is how you generate advantage with this deck. And as you can see, the cool thing about this is that this is an old archetype, therefore a lot of these core cards are low rarity, so you can see like Aruha is normal, this is a super rare which you only need once, then we have basically the Rota for this deck which also is a rare, the traps are normals, this one is also a normal, and yeah, so the cards are not that expensive, super rare for the extra deck monsters, and you only need one of these Unchained Abomination, though I think you can also get away with not running this in Master Duel, to be honest. And then, okay, you have the Tour Guide, which is a great starter that can get you Tour Guide into the Fiendish Rhino Warrior. These two can link off into your Unchained Soul Lord of Yama, which is your searcher for the deck, and then this also will trigger in the graveyard, sending this to the graveyard, and this can then set you a trap, which you can destroy to benefit more from that and summon more monsters. That's generally how it goes. So I think when we will get this deck in full power, it will be quite cheap for us. That is quite nice, obviously. And then we can scroll down. Second place was also taken by Unchained. No big surprise here. It's one of the strongest, maybe the strongest deck right now in the meta. He's also playing the Wailing of the Unchained Souls. Okay, so the lists are quite similar. You can also see, just to quickly talk about this, Dark Contract works in the sense that you can play Dark Contract, search this DD Vice King Requiem, then you can special summon the DD Vice King, overlay him with the Devicer King Deus Machinex, and this can also pop a card, destroy a card, so you can, this can be your starter, because you can, for example, destroy a trap that you have set, and this basically starts your whole engine. And then we can see a third place, also Unchained, so we can see this will be a deck in the future that will be very strong with us. It's important to note here that in the OCG it's not that big of a player, and that is obviously because OCG is a Max C player, OCG is Max C land, and this is quite combo-ish, I would say. So I think in terms of power level we can expect this to be a bit weaker in Master Duel than it is here in the TCG, and the TCG combo decks work way better than with us in Master Duel and in the OCG. We can see here's a Purrely deck, and you can see the list is quite similar to the list that we are running here. The only thing that's different is that we can only run one Pot of Prosperity. A lot of people are running 2 triple tactics talents, and the guys are running the books. As you can see, they are in a lot of deck lists here. They are also triple book, and Jesse Cotton is also playing triple and 2 books. The book seems to be the choice, the tech of choice for most people at the moment in the TCG. That's why you can see them here. Yeah, so we have Purrely here. Otherwise, this looks like the list we are playing minus the Purrely Noir, which is the card we are still missing, because right now we cannot use the Sleepy Memory to upgrade into a Purrely, a bigger cat, but when this will come out, then you can use Sleepy Memory to get into your Purrely Noir, and then if you attach something to Purrely Noir, you can then quick effect set a trap or the Purrely Leap to your field, which then you can more easily use this combo to draw 4 or 6 cards on your opponent's turn. So this will make the deck stronger in the future. And then we have the Infernoble Knights with the new support cards. To be honest, I'm not, okay, I want to say I'm not super sure which one are the new ones, but we can see it here, obviously, the cards that already have rarity we have in game. Yeah, it's, of course, Noble Arms Museum, then a few of the Infernoble Knight basic monsters. And then we also have a new Synchro monster. I'm not super familiar with how this deck plays, and also obviously the new Link 1 monster, Emperor Charles the Great, which I think you can make by making the Infernoble Knight Emperor Charles. This is a spell trap negate, and then you also end on your Giefried, which is a monster negate. So I think the basic board, if I'm not mistaken here, is something like double spell trap negate. You have a Giefried negate, then you also have something to pop, I think, so a destruction effect. And you could also, of course, you can see the books here again, you can also, of course, have something like the Infinite Permanence on the field. I think this deck is also better in the TCG compared to what it will be in Master Duel once we get the support, because obviously this is also a very combo heavy deck. You will summon a lot, and this is not very nice to play into Max C, of course. So I think for Master Duel this will be a bit weaker, but in the TCG right now I think it's a nice contender, nothing too strong here. As you have seen in the top 16 breakdown, there were only this one list here, Infernoble, and I think top 64, this was also the only list that was in here. And then we have Rescue Ace, the deck that we will get in October in Master Duel, according to the leaks. But I think we will not get the full support there. I think we will miss cards like the Preventer and the Emergency, which unfortunately make the deck very strong. So once we get the first cards, I think we will have to wait until we can play this deck full power, though we don't know. The Purrely cards or the Purrely release also showed us once again that Konami sometimes just does what it wants and tells us, oh, you are not getting the second support wave, and then we are getting the second support wave. So you never know, we might get the playable engine here. I think these cards are really cool in terms of artwork, though I have to say, when I played them over on Dueling Nexus, in my opinion, this deck was a bit linear. So you basically always did the same plays, and also the extra deck, or maybe I'm mistaken here, maybe I did understand this wrong, but in my estimation, the extra deck wasn't that important, so you were basically playing with your main deck monsters, which I think it's also always nice to incorporate the extra deck, because especially from an artwork type, boss monster type of play style, it's really cool to summon some big monsters. And then we have a Dragon Link, nothing too special here. This is still a nice deck in the TCG. They have cards like the Bestial Disparter, which is a cool add-on to Dragon Link, which I think we will get in the next pack. It's basically time that Disparter comes out, the next pack or the pack after that, I think. And yeah, these are the top deck lists for the YCS Vancouver, so we can see Unchained will get a lot stronger in the future. This is quite cool. Right now in Master Duel, the deck is not that strong, but with the new support card, it will be quite nice. And I can tell you, I have played this deck over on Dueling Nexus. I first was a bit, oh, okay, I don't really like the artwork, though the docs here are quite nice. But playing this deck is really fun. It reminds me a bit of Tier Laments, only in the sense, don't you worry guys, only in the sense of being a complex deck, not in the sense of being a super annoying and super overpowered deck, which I think this isn't a super annoying, super overpowered deck. Otherwise you would see a bigger top cut here, I think. So that's it for the YCS Vancouver. Let me know in the comments what you think of the current state in the TCG, whether you are following it, whether you don't know what each of these decks is doing because you're only playing Master Duel. Let me know in the comments. I hope you liked the video. Please, if you did, consider subscribing, hitting the thumbs up and the notification bell. This helps me out a lot, and we will see each other in the next one.